So work experience of 1 or 2 years will definitely be a bonus in a lot of terms. Canada, they had specifically mentioned that we want LORs from the professors. In India was that all of the subjects were very theoretical. Just learn this formula, learn this type of question, how to solve this, and you'll pass. They didn't have as much exams as we did.
Yeah.
They had more like just projects. In Manchester, there are two things: a private student accommodation and a university accommodation. So the competition and overall scholarship thing is very tough. We don't have that many classes. Internships are quite tough, and for masters, it's not easy to get a job in the UK. If you want a job in a good company, come in September and start applying in less than 1 month. Keep a very open mind, because when you'll be coming to a new country, you'll have to be open with the new curriculum. In civil engineering in general, experience is something that matters a lot, because honestly, you learn something in class, but you don't really apply it directly on the field. Manchester was not at all in my list.
Hello everyone, welcome to College Dunia Study Abroad. My name is Anshika and today we have with us Akshat, who has completed his Masters in Structural Engineering from the University of Manchester. Hi Akshat.
Hello Anshika, how are you?
I'm good, what about you?
I'm good as well.
That's great. Could you begin by introducing yourself to our viewers?
So I'm Akshat, and as Anshika mentioned, I recently completed my Masters in Structural Engineering from University of Manchester, which is considered one of the Russell Group universities in the UK, which are like the top league colleges of and the classification system in the UK. And before that, I had done my bachelor's back from India, from Manipal University, if you might know about it. And so that's the academic background of it. And other than that, I'm pretty interested in different things like photography, biking, and etc. etc. So yeah, just brief.
That's great. So you said that you did your undergrad in Manipal. So you just applied to the colleges right after college, right after your undergrad. You do not have any experience. So do you think that matters, or it doesn't matter to universities in UK or when you apply for full-time roles?
So first of all, talking about myself, from the end of the first year onwards, during my bachelor's, I was always utilizing my semester breaks as an internship or something. So I had done on-site internships and research internships, and then I published a few research papers also.
That's great.
And then after that, I had done consultancy work in a proper structural engineering firm and other freelancing jobs as well. That was probably like a bonus factor in the whole application system. But since, as you mentioned, that I directly jumped on to completing my bachelor's and moving on to master's, I didn't have a lot of continuous experience, and which is something like what the companies actually are looking for to employ you. So coming to the point that will the work experience matter or not, it definitely matters. I've seen it with other friends of mine who are still looking for jobs, and even for me, since I did not have a continuous work experience for a long term, um, while I was looking for jobs after my graduation or during my study period in Manchester, it was relatively tough, and they obviously prefer who have a certain professional experience and stuff like that, so that they don't have to train someone from the very scratch.
Yeah.
And I have had friends who had a experience of a year and a two, so they definitely had a easier stake. I won't say easier stake, but they definitely had some certain amount of edge in whatever field, whether it be civil engineering, computer sciences, or data analysis or something like that. It definitely matters, and I would actually recommend that you gain some experience before applying to masters if you're thinking to coming to the UK, because in comparison to other countries like Canada or USA, this is a very tiny country, and the number of people are like just growing, and the number of immigrants are growing, and there might be a little tough to get the work visa because companies have to pay for it. They prefer generally the ones who have the citizenship already or have a lot of experience and a lot of transferable skills. So work experience of 1 or 2 years will definitely be a bonus in a lot of terms.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think interning and having a lot of undergrad experiences that you mentioned and having different interests would have helped you a lot in writing your SOP and then getting into the university. And it's a nice university and it's great to get an admit from University of Manchester. So I think those add on, but then after, as you mentioned, it's gaining 1-2 years of experience won't hurt anyone.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be actually a bonus, if not as an add-on to your SOP, but definitely when you have got into the stage of getting into university, but applying for jobs, which is like the aim of many people and generally most of the people. And since you mentioned about SOP writing, so having a lot of different interests and something to write on is an advantage, because they can figure out that who is just bluffing in their SOP and just is not making some random story. So if you're involved in different things, different extracurricular activities at the same time, not just academics, you will definitely have something to write about.
Yeah. So can we move a little back and talk about all the colleges you applied to and how many colleges you applied to in total?
Okay, so the funny story, Manchester was not at all in my list. And UK, in fact, was not at all in my list. I was focused towards applying towards Canada. And I started the whole applying process back in 2020 during COVID. First, where I was like, I'm just frustrated. I need to just grow and just explore further. So I gave my IELTS exam, and then I was like, okay, Canada. And I applied to like the top 5-6 colleges in which I had a scope, and I had talked to the professors over there. I showed my profile, my research paper and stuff, and told them that I've gone to Japan to represent my research paper. And they were like, yeah, it's a very strong profile. It will all be good. But COVID happened, and then it made the whole situation very tough in terms of getting positive feedback from the application committee or whatever. So I couldn't really get into the top 3 colleges that I was aiming for in Canada, and all the safe colleges had accepted. So I was like, not a very great stake to just go at. And for safety, I had applied to Birmingham because it had a course of civil and management combined, and I was kind of interested in civil plus management, even though I did a very core structural engineering master's, but that was something I wanted to do. Then other than that, when I got rejections from every place possible in Canada, I was like, okay, I can't just spend a lot of money and go to any university just for the sake of it. So I saw that, and luckily so I applied to Glasgow also, Nottingham also. And then at the very, very end of 2021, around April, I saw that Manchester applications are still open somehow. I'm like, okay, let's just apply. And they accepted after like 2 months. And by that time, I had already got an acceptance from Glasgow, which was like in the QS world ranking, it was among the top ones. So I was like, okay, let's just go there. And I had given the safety money fee deposit of £1,000 as well. Okay. But then Manchester accepted, and I was like, this is better. And let's just go for it. And I just went for it.
That's great. Can you name the universities you applied to in Canada? Because having an admit from UK and not from Canada, I know COVID situation was really different, but I just want to know what universities you applied to in Canada.
So I applied to University of Toronto, Vancouver.
University of British Columbia?
Yeah, sorry, UBC. Yeah, that was like my top priority. And then Alberta, Calgary, and Queens.
So you had a limited number, like 4-5 universities from Canada, and then you...
Yeah, and McMaster also. Okay. Yeah.
That's great. So now coming to the application process, you said that you applied really in April, so it's a little late, it seems, for the application process. People usually start it in November or December, and then they get accepted or rejected maybe by February or March. So how was the application process in the UK, and SOP, LORs, and did you submit any scores? Because I've heard UK universities have like, they accept without an IELTS score if you have done your studies in English. So was that the same for you?
Yeah, so it was actually the similar case. And I had my SOP and everything, LORs ready, because I was planning on applying for other colleges. Yeah. Even though this was last minute, so I just had to change the college name. And other than that, LORs, I had asked my professors, because what happens is, talking about Canada, they had specifically mentioned that we want LORs from the professors or academic LORs, not from internships or something. So I had them ready. And so the application process in Canada had a fees around, depending upon the colleges, it was around $100, $150 or less than that, but they had a fees. At the same time, talking about UK, they didn't have a fees at all. Only certain colleges like maybe LBS and Imperial College London, they have the application fee. That is also like way less than Canadian colleges. But other than that, all the colleges don't have any specific application fees. And same, I applied to Nottingham, Sheffield, Manchester, Glasgow, Birmingham. I never was charged any fees. And in terms of the application process, it was like back in my time, it was smooth. It was just a page, upload this, upload that, upload your scores. And regarding IELTS, they had a preference that like even if you've studied the whole thing, like your schooling has been in English, it's totally fine. And if you've scored certain percentage, it's fine. But I would just say IELTS is not that tough if you are just fluent in English. So let's just go for it and give it and have it for the safety, because there might be some colleges which just prefer IELTS. For example, like last moment, if you want to apply for another country and that college is only accept IELTS. So for the safety of it, it's just give it.
Yeah, that's true. So it's not any like number that you should get to get into this university. It's just a language test. So I think having a fluency or minimum score of 7 or 7.5 helps.
Yeah, definitely helps.
Yeah. So talking about the University of Manchester, your course was just 1 year, and you said that you had started working in September already. So how is the whole course structured, and how many courses you have to complete overall?
So my course was from September to September, exactly 1 year. It was segregated into 3 parts of 2 semesters, and the third part for dedicatedly for dissertation, in which the first semesters had basic subjects, not very basic, but like 4-5 subjects, and similarly in the second one. And the third semester or the third part strictly was focused on just one thing, that was dissertation, which was intense. And talking about the first semester in structural engineering, they had subjects like structural analysis and advanced structural analysis, which had a bit of geotechnical engineering, which had a bit of general plastic and elastic analysis of things. And what was the tough part? There was one more thing, and basically it was that. And other than that, the subjects were experimental methods, which sounds very easy, but it was a very practical subject in which it was very application based. We were taught about LabVIEW and MATLAB, and not just about just sitting in the lab and how to do it, but actually using its scope in the real industry, how it actually works. So we were given like a lot of knowledge and how those concepts are utilized in the real world. And after that, for the second half of the semester, like in the second half of the first semester itself, we were given a project in which we were given a lot of devices and accelerometers, and we had to basically code a program in LabVIEW and dig out some data from a bridge based on the way it's vibrating because of the pedestrians, and then analyze that data and make a report. It was fun, but a lot of work. I just don't know. And so basically even the other subjects that were there, they were very practical. From what I experienced in India was that all of the subjects were very theoretical. Just learn this formula, learn this type of question, how to solve this, and you'll pass.
Yeah.
Over here, it was like you will be given a project which will be having a certain weightage, and you'll have to think a lot, like literally with a group of 6 people, just thinking, and end up scoring like 65%. So one thing I would say is in India, if you're scoring 85% or something like that, be ready to score 60%, 65% and be happy with it. And so there were other subjects also. In the second semester, there were subjects like earthwork engineering and fire engineering. And there was a design project which was actually a subject but a project through which was running throughout the semester, in which we had to, like, every group is given a different thing to design, in which my group was given to design a whole 22-story building, and it had a particular brief, like what are the limitations and what are the things you can or cannot do. And again, it was very practical. In every subject there was a test and a project and many things, but at the end most of the things had a proper exam at the end of the semester.
Okay.
In the first semester also had finite element analysis, and one thing I would want to actually mention who are interested in this course is that in India I studied finite element analysis, and it was like a lot of math, like actually solving using hand. Over here I actually understood the concept behind it, what's the application, think about it, and then do the analysis and solve the questions based on what you are understanding conceptually, not just mugging up the formulas. And in that also they asked us to do a project in which we had to do softwares and basically analyze how a pressure cooker bursts.
Okay. So it's a lot of practical application along with theoretical parts. It's not that they cut on the exam completely, but certain weightage of exam and the practical project is set.
Yeah, which is kind of different because most of the other courses over here in University of Manchester, because I had been in like law, data analysis and other stuff. So it was basically, they didn't have as much exams as we did.
Yeah.
They had more like just projects, or they had like a 48-hour exam in which they were given a problem and they have to submit it after a certain period of time. We had a proper just write and give exam type of a thing.
Even for me, it's more like if a subject has a project, they do not have any like exam in particular. There are midterms which are like of 20% weighted say, and again we are given like 2 days to submit the quiz. It's a normal quiz, so.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah. So you said the course was really intense, it seems, and the last semester was just for the dissertation. So you had to start thinking about the topic from the first semester, or you were given a particular topic to work on during the last semester and you had a professor to work with you on?
So I would have actually preferred to choose my own topic, but in the MACE, basically the institute, like the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Aerospace and Civil Engineering in University of Manchester, they have a lot of people doing the course, because what they do in the first semester is they teach aerospace students, mechanical engineering students, and civil structural engineering students in a same kind of cohort for certain subject. So they have a lot of people studying all together, and because of that same reason, for like other courses they are like around 20-30 people in the class. For us they were around 70-80, something like that. So basically if they would have given the opportunity to everyone choose their own topic, there would have been a chaos. So that's why we were given a list of a lot of topics and the professors associated with it, and we had to just list down on like from your preference basis the top 10, and some data analysis used to happen and we were all allotted the topic. I didn't like my topic at all.
So you had to work dedicatedly on that topic for like a semester.
Yeah.
And it's a group of people working on the same topic?
So it's basically one person working on one topic generally. And we were allotted the topic in the first semester, and then we had to do certain meetings with the professor throughout the first and second semester, but it wasn't that intense. But it became more intense in the third part.
Got it. So talking about the expenses, how much is the tuition fee for the university for 1 year?
So for my course, it was around 25 to 26,000 pounds, which is around 25 to 26 lakhs in India. And apart from that, the living cost, or I was living in a student accommodation, so which might be a little costlier than the general. If you like stay in a rented apartment with a lot of people, it might be a little costlier, but it has its pros of having everything at your, like, it's basically like, first of all, it's safer. Then second, it has a lot of facilities and stuff like that, and then you get to just talk with different people and students, which you might not be having the opportunity to do if you're living in a random apartment. And it was kind of modern and stuff. And so there in Manchester, there are two things: a private student accommodation and a university accommodation. I would recommend a private one because it's a little cheaper than uni one, and at the same time, it's way better in terms of quality because uni accommodations are old, and yeah.
So how much was the cost for you to live there?
Oh, so yeah, so my accommodation was somewhere around £140 per week, which was around £580 per week, sorry, per month. So basically around 60,000 a month, you can say, just for the rent of it. But in terms of Manchester living expenses, it's not much because now I'm living in a flat, so it's way costlier than student accommodations, and we have to pay a bill and stuff. And the good thing about student accommodation is everything is just included, so you don't have to worry about council tax, electricity bill, water bill, and stuff, and everything else.
So a lot
It's
of
just,
needed when you take your own apartment.
yeah, yeah.
To cover these expenses, was there any scholarship offered by the university? I don't think having such a small course would like help you do a part-time, or you would even sign up for a part-time when the course is so intense.
I mean, you can do part time. So I wasn't offered any scholarship because I applied last moment, but there are opportunities to apply for scholarships, but it's a little tough to get in, to be honest. Like the competition is a lot, and a lot of international students are already applying, especially after 2021. So the competition and overall scholarship thing is very tough now, is what I think. Then other than that, what was the other question?
I was asking you any scholarships. You mentioned that there wouldn't be opportunities, but are there any part-time student could do, or you did personally? That
Okay. So scholarships, there are scholarships, but I don't know about them. But there definitely are as a list. So if you are planning like 6 and 7 months before the whole process, you might be able to actually apply for it and even get it. But yeah, part time. So when I came here, since it's a 1 year course, it's very intense. So you don't really get a lot of time. But it's an expensive country, and especially when you're converting from INR to pounds, you're multiplying by 100. So you somehow just feel like, okay, I need to earn a little. So we get a work limit of 20 hours a week, and which is kind of okay. So because we don't have that many classes in week, you can actually work. That's not a problem. So you can work anywhere because it's not a limitation that you have to work on campus only. You can work in Tim Hortons, Pret, which is like a cafe over here, and anywhere, and warehouses. And there are like certain apps in which you can just sign up, and they have different shifts through different things, events for a waiter or something like that, and you can just pick your slot and choose, okay, I'll just do 3 hours shift over here, something like that. Then I tried that in the very beginning. I had worked in warehouse also, but I didn't like it. But I
How
did.
much was the hourly pay?
So it's based on the age actually. If you're 23 and above or something like that, it's around £9 per hour, and I guess they have increased it by now. And but generally through some apps or opportunities, they might pay you 10 or 11 or more than that also. Then but you don't have to limit yourself to these particular part-times because you can actually apply anywhere. So the university portal has a lot of options in which if you just keep on looking, you might just get a good one. For example, in November, I signed up for this one in which I was a home demonstrator, in which there was already a built two flat schemes, good fancy apartments, which were bought by a lot of rich people from Hong Kong and as well as UK, like investors. And we had to basically do the paperwork and present the houses, and we were paid quite good for a kind of simple task. Then after that, through the same portal, I found another job for a property developer and land developer, and he wanted a social media manager. And I was like, okay, let me just try it. And I just went to him, contacted him, gave a phone interview, met him once. Then he's like, okay, let's just you can do more than social media, so I'll just give you a business development consultant. I was like, okay. So Then I worked with him for a few months, part-time, like two days a week or something like that, in which real estate, blah blah blah, and all of things. So it's not that you have to just work in warehouse and cafes. You can just explore and be aware of what's happening around, and just grab the opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. And if we come back to talking about the full-time roles and opportunities, so are there any career fairs or events happening in college that help you get a place for full-time or an internship? But I don't think there are internships done by any student in your course.
Internships are quite tough for masters because it's a
One.
very short course. But if you're doing bachelor's over here, so there's this thing called MNs which they provide over here, in which they have an option of doing an industrial placement. So you, in 5 years of time, you do a bachelor's degree, MN master's degree, and even 1 year of placement year. So they also have an option, but that will be a 5-year course in the UK. So basically, like, just multiply 30 lakhs into 5, just an approximate. And so that's for those people. Internships, if you're just doing M.Sc 1-year course, very tough, almost not possible. They won't even offer you. Then regarding the career fairs, definitely they do happen in the university. What happened with me was that it was online because that was like the COVID period and there was a COVID scare, so that it wasn't that much in during my time. But when my course was getting over, I have seen a lot happening in the campus, and they are quite frequent nowadays also. So yeah, a lot of good companies actually come over there, but it's not like they will offer you jobs right there. They'll just that will basically be a place so that you can connect to people and know more about the opportunities in that company. In the end, you will have to be the one approaching them on LinkedIn and applying for the jobs and doing the whole process.
More like the networking place for you to network with people who are giving jobs, right?
Yeah. And like the harsh truth about the whole fact is that, first of all, one advice is that work on your LinkedIn account. That's really very useful. I mean, a lot of people say that people are acting fake over there, but it gets you a good job and position. So definitely work on a LinkedIn account. And the other fact is that the harsh reality is that it's not easy to get a job in the UK. It's not at all easy. It's very tough. It's a long process. You'll have to apply for it. A lot of jobs. But if you apply it in the right way, you can also end up in the right position or something that you actually want. And that's why I would say that having a certain amount of work experience, more than 1 year, and continuous work experience would be very helpful in terms of the whole thing. And as you know, on the news, that UK economy and everything, so companies are preferring people who, so that they won't have to sponsor their visas in long term, and etc., because more security and as well as less economic expenditure for the company.
Yeah.
And
for international students, I feel every time they have to be dependent on companies to sponsor their visas, and that's a burden on the companies.
Yeah. Unless and until the company is rich.
Yeah. For sure. So you have a full-time job, and you said you started it in September itself. So how did you apply for it? What is the timeline of the application? How did you prepare for it?
So I had been applying. First of all, I didn't know that you have to apply 1 year ago. Then I came to the UK and I was like, everyone's applying. I'm like, what, really? I have to work from next year. So then I got to know, okay, graduate opportunities actually I have to apply from now only. But I didn't apply very efficiently, and that's why all the deadlines for good companies or major companies, they are somewhere around in December or January. So basically, if you want a job in a good company, come in September and start applying in less than 1 month, because all the good companies might have the deadline by the end of November, December, January, because the interview process and the later on assessment centers, they are mostly around March or February. Okay. So one advice is that start applying. Like, it's very fast over here for 1 year course. and you'll have to apply to a lot of companies. I myself applied to a lot of companies and have got a lot of rejections.
Rejections
And
are a part of life, it seems, when applying to
yeah,
the current situation in US is also really bad. So I don't think a lot of people are getting like offer letters. So it's a lot of
yeah,
rejections.
yeah, that's actually true. Then the current job that I'm working in, so I had gotten a lot of rejections, but this job that I'm currently working in, it kind of just hit. I don't know how. In the last month, around May, June, July, I applied it for it in July. Everything's happening last month in my life for some reason. So I applied in June, July, and they were like, okay, let's have an interview. Then I went through 2 rounds of interviews, and they're like, okay. Then at the same time, this other company that also gave me an interview offer. That seemed like a really cool company also. It was a startup. They were paying more. They also gave me an offer. But by that time, I had already accepted the offer and I was like, okay, ethical problem. So I didn't go for it. But yeah, I had 2 offers. But I can say that I became a little lucky with that because a lot of my friends who were studying the same course or a similar sort of course are still looking for jobs. And some of them had gotten jobs, but they got laid off in the recent times.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but you'll have to work on it.
Okay.
And yeah.
So what's the average pay being offered to a master's student in general? I mean, it depends on experience and a lot of other factors, but like just an average number.
Like if you have an experience of 1 to 2 years, you'll most probably be applying for graduate roles, and the graduate roles generally pay from 25,000 pounds to somewhere around 32 or 33,000 pounds, which is like 25 lakhs to 33 lakhs. And I would say that's not very much in terms of the UK living conditions, because you can say that if you're earning 2,000 pounds a month or something, so you'll probably spend on rent, bills, and food, groceries, etc., somewhere around 50% of it, definitely. And so let's say if you want like a chill living condition, you will spend somewhere around 1,000 to 1,200 pounds a month when you're working. When you're a student, you can definitely save on a lot of things because you don't have to care about a lot of things if you're in a student accommodation. And you can save as a student is what I can suggest.
For sure. Students spend up most of the time in university or the library, so there's not much time to have
Yeah.
something in the house. So it's okay
Yeah.
not to have a sofa or not to have a proper big dining table.
Yeah, that's not an issue at all. I don't remember having food at my dining table in my student accommodation. It's just a random park. I'm having a sandwich.
That's so. Can you talk about some of your experiences at the university, some good or bad times that you had?
So the difficult thing that I would say is that since it's very fast, you have to, and since if you're from generally a middle class background or something like that, you suddenly start thinking, oh my god, everything's so expensive, and that puts a lot of burden in your head, and you're just like, oh my god, what's happening? But you need to just stay calm and wait for a month or two, just get adjusted to it. And even I took time because I'm a conjuice, I would say. And until the moment I actually started earning from part-time, I was stressing a little too much about even buying smallest things. And you don't worry about the money. I would
think
say that
coming from India, everybody thinks a lot about money because
Yeah.
you think about in terms of how your parents are earning or how much it
Yeah.
is in India, but you have to spend in this in pound. It's different.
Yeah, definitely it's very different and difficult. So that's why if you're coming to UK or any other country in abroad, if you don't have a scholarship, I would suggest that keep in mind that you will have to spend a little extra so that you are able to focus on other things such as studying or getting a part-time or having just an open mind around the things and not stressing about the money aspect, and just keep in mind that the money will have to be spent and bring that money somehow home. from the past or something, because that is something that is a mistake that I did. I was stressing about it too much and didn't really develop that much in the initial stage, which I could have done. So don't stress about it that much, and keep that threshold of extra money to be spent initially until you are used to the pound or whatever. And then the good experience I would say is that the professors are really nice. They're not strict. They are actually like, if you go with a silly doubt or just a silly discussion, if you mail them, they'll give a very positive feedback. And so that's a very cool thing. And all its studying is very practical, so that's a very good thing. University campus is pretty cute. And the new, if you're in engineering, so they have a new engineering building which is really good. And parks and stuff. The weather around January, February is too gloomy, so it might be a little sad. So I'll suggest that if you have a holiday or something, go visit India, because you need that sunlight. And bad experiences, I would say, just be open to anything. Like literally go clubbing also, no problem with it. Just be open to anything and making friends with everyone, making connections, and keep a very open mind, because when you'll be coming to a new country, you'll have to be open with the new curriculum, and at the companies that you might be applying to, and the people who have already lived there, and make connections.
Yes,
Build
there's a
maintain.
lot of change, and I think talking to people and sharing different experiences helps a lot to like go to a new country or even talk to new people.
Yeah.
So, is there some final advice for students who are looking to do a master's in structural engineering?
So if you're planning to do structural engineering and civil engineering in general, experience is something that matters a lot, because honestly, you learn something in class, but you don't really apply it directly on the field. There's a gap, I feel. And when you have experience, then you actually learn how to apply things. And that's why in India it's pretty tough to get a job directly after bachelor's in civil engineering. So, but just if you're planning, it's better to have some kind of experience. I would, and other than that, civil engineering, structural engineering advice. Structural engineering is a very intensive course, so be sure about it that you want to do it. Because, so as of now, my current state, I'm not like, if I look into 6 years down the line, I don't see myself doing just structural engineering. So I'm like, okay, I did the course and passed it also, but and I did learn a lot of things, because it's very analytical and stuff, and it's like the toughest part of civil engineering, I would say, because a lot of people, for example, computer science students, judge civil engineers, but structural engineering is not easy, I would say. Yeah. So you have to be very practical in structural engineering, because you can score very good in structural engineering in Indian exams, but you have to think a lot practically, and the applications over here. And after that also, when I'm working as a structural engineer, it's way different in terms of application. So be thorough with your basic concepts also, and be sure if you want to do it, and don't just do it for the sake of it.
Got it. That's great advice. I mean, people just follow others who've done the same thing and do not think what they want and what they're looking for in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It was great talking to you, Akshat, today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great. Nice to meet you too, Anshika.
Goodbye.